Ladies and gentlemen, we're live. We're a bit late. We have just been talking for 16 minutes off air. I'd like to thank our online recording software for not starting when we asked it to. But welcome to episode 2 of the 12 Talk podcast. My name's Josh. This is Mitch. And as you probably noticed, there is a third person here in our party. This is Jonas Meister of the German Seahawkers. He's going to be our first 12 joining us on the 12 Talk podcast. Today, and I feel like I'm repeating myself, thank you to the wonders of the internet. if anything, it's going to be a funny pod now. You've got to remember what you said. So we're going to talk cap. We have said it. The Seahawks fan base are fully aware that we're in a little bit of cap purgatory at the moment. We don't know what's happening, who's going where, what's being restructured. But the gentlemen on either side of me have done a lot of work because I have been busy in the big smoke this week and not able to actually delve into this stuff. So we're going to talk cap. We're going to talk Mike MacDonald, and now we've got a bit more information about him. We're going to talk about his defensive scheme and what can happen. We'll talk also about the new Seahawks defensive coordinator, because that's quite an interesting one for us folks based in the UK. Before I go any further, Mitch, how are you doing, dude?
Yeah, very good. Very good. I know you know that because I've already told you. But yeah, absolutely fine. Yeah, really excited for sort of talking about some of these new coach hires and the cap and how we're going to start looking to shape this off season. I think things are starting to fall into place, and we can start to sort of get an idea for how our new coaching team is going to look and how we might start approaching things. So yeah, really exciting. Good times.
Excellent. And Jonas, how are you doing again, sir?
Yeah, like you said, we talked about it, but for the folks at home, yeah, I'm awesome. It's great to be back, and yeah, we had a good, an awesome talk a couple of months ago before the last season started, and I'm excited to be back. And yeah, like Mitch said, it's just pretty exciting right now with the new head coach, with the coaching staff coming in, and yeah, stories developing out of Seattle, and just not really knowing what's going to happen, but being excited about it because it's a young staff. It's going to be hopefully innovative, and yeah, it's just awesome to see, and I'm literally can't wait for the season to start. So it's going to be a couple of months still, but yeah, if it would have started tomorrow, it's fine with me.
At least it's going to be an exciting off season. I mean, before we get any further, should we just hit the theme song?
Let's do it.
Do it.
And Gen X, let's go for it. Lovely. Still love it. Second time I've heard it tonight, and I still love it. I can't help it. Right, so let's get straight into it. Mike MacDonald. We discussed it on our first pod last week. Thank you so much to everyone who tuned in live, who listened to it on Spotify. I think we're on Google, Apple, and loads of others now. And everyone who tuned in on X as well. So thank you. For anyone following on socials. If you've not, find us on pretty much everything because we love a bit of social media. Why not? And if you're not sure where to find us, then you can check the banner down there and it'll tell you. So let's talk Mike Mac. We've had a bit more insight. We know what he's potentially going to be running. You guys obviously know about what he was running in Baltimore as well. And we discussed it for a good 5 minutes earlier. But let's do it again because why not? We can be more concise. Jonas, you're up first as our lead guest, my friend.
Yeah, thanks as much. Like, yeah, we talked about it already. Yeah, I'm pretty excited obviously of the scheme Mike MacDonald's going to bring. Like the most probably most exciting thing for me is like what he did with Kyle Hamilton. He got it this first year as a defensive coordinator. Hamilton was a rookie. Last year he was in his sophomore season and just exploded onto the scene. Like coming out of Notre Dame, he had a pretty mediocre rookie season, and people were talking about, is he going to be a bust or no? He's obviously not, because of Mike MacDonald. And we got a pretty similar piece in Devin Witherspoon, who had an awesome rookie season, who got snubbed for Defensive Rookie of the Year, being fourth. It's just ridiculous in my mind. And he who also was like, after the draft, people said, "Oh, is he going to be playing outside corner?" He was not. He was playing mostly nickel, like doing all the run stuffing stuff, pass rushing, and being like the Swiss Army life, like really not similar to Hamilton, but not like Hamilton, because Hamilton is a safety. He's much taller. He's got much more weight, but he wasn't really playing the classical safety in the MacDonald scheme. And I think what he's going to do with Witherspoon is going to be pretty exciting. And also on the D line, which is probably going to get on now. One player I'm really excited for is Draymond Jones as well, who was signed last year, like a big free agent, and didn't have the impact in his first season. But I don't know, like Mitch, you spoke of another D-liner, and it's going to be pretty exciting.
I think it is. I think the Draymond one's a quandary, which is a lot of people this season didn't know what to do. Mitch and I have spoke about this, and Mitch has some quite well thought out and researched views as to who's going to do well in the scheme that as it could materialize. But Mitch, what were your thoughts?
Yeah, one of the things I really like about MacDonald's scheme is the way he manages to not necessarily hide lesser players within the system, but he puts them in positions and scrambles the coverage formations at the point of the snap. So it's really difficult for a quarterback to look at a DB or a backup linebacker and say, I'm going to send my tight, this player is going to send a crossing tight end, and I think he's going to be picked up by that player that, we've got an advantage against. And then this time around, when you've shown that coverage, a completely different player is covering that area of the field, whether it's the hook, the curl, the flat. You just have all the players scramble into different places. So you end up rushing with 4, sometimes 5, and often getting home because of the extra time the quarterback holds the ball. So because they're trying to work that out, they thought they knew it before the snap, and come the snap, they knew nothing. So Mike Mack can put players out there, whether they're covering injured players or whether they're rookies, free agents, low-cost free agents that are making up the roster. And it's really hard for teams to sort of scheme to take advantage of them, is what I'm trying to say, because each coverage formation has 4 or 5 different assignments for personnel that they will have to learn. And also, I didn't mention this when we did it the first time round, but a lot of Ravens fans considered the way Mike Mack was calling plays as calling defensive plays like an offensive coordinator, based on, an offensive coordinator will start calling plays based on what the defense is showing them through the course of the game. But Mike Mack will start calling defensive plays and personnel switches within looks to really maximize against what offenses are showing. So we're going to see a really dynamic, versatile sort of look to defense, which is incredibly exciting for me. I have no idea which players exactly will fit best in it, and they may fit better week to week depending on the opponent and how he calls it. So who knows? It's a mystery, really.
I think that's the most exciting thing. I mean, I know we're going to discuss obviously the cap and whatnot. I don't foresee in this first season, having thought about it, being too many moves apart from people that maybe, won't be re-signed, purely because he's going to want to know what he's working with. He's going to want to know who can fit in whatever scheme he dreams up for the Seahawks best. And after the first season, at that point, he'll go, look, this is going to be our identity. You're gone, you're gone, you're gone, you're gone. And then we have this conversation again in the off season, which hopefully Jonas will join us for again. And then we get to recap and see how our scenarios worked out. With that, obviously, discussing the cap, discussing restructuring, re-signing, how it may look. The two gentlemen either side of me here have, like I said earlier, done all the work on this. They have come up with some fantastic pieces of data. So I'm going to be putting some things up on the screen, letting them do a lot of the talking. And hopefully, if you guys have any questions or any comments, by all means, drop them in the chat for us. We'd be more than happy to answer them, to discuss anything that you bring up as well. So firstly, Jonas, let's go for it.
Yeah.
What have we got?
Just a quick shout out, like you see on the bottom of the screen. It's a stat, or it's a graphic from Ben Baldwin. I got off his Twitter from an article, and he broke down the cap allocations on the offense and defense. And like you see on the offensive side, on the right hand side, it's just pretty standard NFL stuff. Like you got your skill players, your receivers, which almost get 60% of the offensive cap, with DK and Tyler and JSN on the bottom there. And then you have the cap or the money which is allocated to Geno Smith, and with a good quarterback, like I think he's a top 15 quarterback, if I'm honest. You have to pay him. Like he's your most important player on the team. And then you see like it's fizzling out a bit on the right hand side. And it's just the classical Seahawks stuff of the last century. Like there hasn't been many resources allocated to the O-line. And it's going to be interesting to see how Mike MacDonald views this kind of stuff. Like Pete didn't really emphasize it a lot, like put his money elsewhere, which we see on the left hand side. And this is the car crash, the cap casualty car crash, and the Seahawks are in. It's like you see, it's almost 60% of the defensive cap is going to the safety position, and it's just puts you in a horrible position. Like what are you going to do with Jamal Adams and Quan Riddick, who didn't really contribute as much as you would have liked. Like the money you pay them is not the comparable to the performances on the field. And that's the worst cap stuff Mike MacDonald has to deal with right now. We're going to get into it. And then you got the interior defensive line, which has like 30% of the defensive cap, which is pretty normal for NFL standards. And Mike MacDonald emphasized in his presser, he's gonna focus on the trenches, like on the O-line and on the offense, and on the D-line on the defense. And you got money there. And then you obviously have the pass rush. The most expensive player is Chenan Wosu. Like we said, the role players are very, very young. They're all rookies or all on their first contract, and on the bottom there. And then you have the rest of the secondary, the cornerbacks with Devin Witherspoon, who is getting a lot of money for being the fifth overall pick of last year's draft. And then you got all the other guys there. But the biggest problem is literally on the left hand side, which is the safety salary, which is way too high for NFL standards. And it's going to be a bit of a headache for Mike MacDonald and John Schneider just to get out of it.
It is. I mean, you look at this. I mean, we've Big shout out to Robert. He said even with cornerbacks on rookie contracts, that's a hard number to stomach by a position group. You are right, my friend. That is when you see that, and thank you for doing that, because I think when people talk about it, you don't realize the proportion of the salary cap that is being used there. Even looking at Diggs, that is a big old chunk of change. I mean, Adams, we knew his was huge, but Diggs is massive. Jones as well. You expect better performance for someone being paid like that. I feel bad for Nwosu because he's one of our most effective players, and in the grand scheme of things, he's not earning anywhere near Adams or Diggs money. I'd love to know what the mindset was from Pete Carroll when he offered that money. Was it, I'm just going to have the best safety group and protect the middle and allow people to, or try and get people to throw on the outsides, people like Reek and whoever else we draft? It's baffling. Mitch, what would you say about this?
Yeah, I think safety is a very versatile. It's a fairly versatile position on defense. You can do a lot with it schematically, but I think with Adams, paying Adams, and then him having the injury history he's had, whatever plans were made to utilize that area of the cap were just blown open anyway. They could have had a genius plan to move him around, have him blitzing, use him as a line, use him at the box, they could have had all kinds of plans, and they just didn't get to do them. Everything before his huge contract was, right, am I right in thinking his first year was the 9.5 sack year? Before the extension. So ever since he's been on that money, we've got very little out of him because of injury. And there may well have been plans, because they called him a defensive weapon, not a safety, right, at the time of dishing out the money. And then they've not really been able to exploit that. So it doesn't change the fact that our cap is very heavily invested in some areas that aren't doing much for us. Q Diggs has obviously had a really good return in terms of takeaways since he's been a Seahawk. And in fact, while he was in Detroit, it was the same. He's not really let us down. He's performed in a lot of ways, and there has been serious injury for him in there as well. I think it was broken. Was it broken? He had a broken leg, right? At the end, towards the end of one season. Yeah. So, I mean, it hasn't worked out for us. We've paid people who have been injured. We've paid people that we haven't been able to scheme properly. I think if at least half of that money had been invested into the D-line, or possibly on the other side of the ball in the O-line, we might have been seeing a very better structured cap. But we're recovering from what we've done here, right? It's a new regime. And I think luckily there are some ways to get out of that money this year, which we're going to go into. So I think we'll realize a bit of that potentially with at least one of those two safeties moving on, I think.
Yeah.
I think we
possibly
will.
Both, but maybe.
I think the offensively, we all know the Disley contract is a bit of a crutch. But I think apart from that, like you said, the skill positions, the wide receivers always get big money anyway. Obviously, you guys are going to talk about what we can do with that, and I'm interested to hear your points, because even though I've not written anything down, I have my own views as well. And as you said, Jonas, Gino, if you've got half decent quarterback, you're going to pay him. What we'll do as well, whilst we're doing this, like I said, anyone who's watching, if you do want to talk to us about any of your ideas on these caps, we're more than happy to discuss any of them, because let's face it, there are some pretty big hits there. So if I try and work out technology, then we can go through the next thing. This is what happens when you have prepared guests. They come armed with all of these stats and facts and everything else, and then as the host, you've then got to try and make it work. But I will adapt and overcome. So here we go. Oh, there you go. Got there in the end.
There we go.
Bosh. Awesome.
I prefer that.
That's the I got it from Off the Cap, where I get all my numbers and stuff like that from, and it shows you the contract situation, like with bonuses and stuff like that. But the most important part of this graphic is the two columns on the right hand side, which are the dead money when you cut these players before June 1st, and on the just most right hand side, it's the money you save, and it's ranked from the most expensive player on the team to the least expensive, and obviously the most expensive player is Geno, but considering his status as a top 15 quarterback, fringe top 10 if he's got the right protection. It's a team friendly deal. You have him. You're gonna get into the draft, which we'll probably talk later on. Like, are you getting a quarterback to sit behind him? It's obviously from my point of view, the ideal situation for a rookie quarterback. Just sit him behind Geno for 2 years, let Geno run out his contract, and then start the rookie like the Packers did with Jordan Love. So that's the first thing. Like, keep Geno, and then we get to the big one. We get to Jamal Adams, who is on who's going to earn like $27 million next year, which is huge. And it's for me, it's the Seahawks have no choice but to cut him. It's like they have to eat this huge amount of that money, which is like almost $21 million. But they have to be true to themselves, like saying, there are worse things that happen to this franchise, like passing the ball on the 1 yard line.
Oh no!
Why have you done this?
Why? This was a really nice, fun pod, and then you go and bring that up.
You have to eat those 2 first-round picks you traded for him and cut him loose, and like I said, just it's so expensive and so horrible, but you have to take these $21 million, because what you're gonna do with him on the roster next year? I see him nowhere. It seems he's contemplating retirement, like when you've seen his socials of the last days. And on the bright side, you're going to save $6 million, which is going towards your cap, which almost puts you, or which does put you in the black. Like right now, the Seahawks have 5.2 million. They are 5.2 million over the cap right now. So cutting out Adams would put you in the black with all the players you got. And going down the list, you have Tyler Lockett, which it's a huge contract as well. The question is he going to retire, or does he play on? I would say he's not going to retire, but he's not going to be wide receiver number 2 in Seattle. That's going to JSN. He's going to be wide receiver number 3, and he's giving you value at that position, being a wide receiver number 3. And the way I would go here is just restructure his deal. We have another chart, but you don't have to show it.
I will show it for you shortly.
Okay.
Don't worry, we've got time, sir. We've got half an hour, and I know Mitch is quite efficient with his, and he's got some explanations, but we can get that done. Don't worry. So let's go. Do you want the other chart, or do you want to keep going with this one, sir?
No. It's mainly because of Tyler Lockett, and if you're going to restructure his deal, you're going to save. I think I wrote it down, like $7 million of cap space right now, and it gives you the opportunity, like if he's really falling off with his performances over the next year. It gives you the opportunity to cut him in 2025. You will eat $9 million of that money, but you will save $17 million going towards the cap. So it's a much more manageable situation next year. Like if you're going to restructure his deal. Yeah, then I'm just going further down the list. It's DK, who
let's go
obviously.
for the most notable ones, because then we need to start talking about who
Yeah,
we're
yeah,
going to
yeah.
restructure.
Yeah, I'm going for the most notable ones. Like
Right.
DK, no
Great.
question about it. The next one is Quandre Diggs, which is another problem. You have 10 million of dead money if you cut him. You're going to save 11 million, but on the other hand, like if you cut QDix, your safety room will totally be empty. You just got Jarek Reed, who's coming off an ACL as a rookie, who was a good special teams player, but you have nobody else. So I would go the route of cutting him and eating the 10 million debt money, but save the 11 million, but immediately resigning him to another deal, because it gives you this leader role on the defense. Like, I love him to death, but I think Bobby's not going to come back. I hope he's retiring, which it doesn't sound like it, because I can't envision him playing anywhere else but the Seahawks. But he declined too much in the last year, even for a big Bobby fan like me. So you have to have this experienced player on the back end in the defense, which is going to be QDix. Going down the list, Draymond Jones, no question about him. Coming to Will Disley, as much as we love him in Seattle for being a Washington guy, it's just too much of a cap reliability. You have to cut him. You are going to save $7 million going towards the cap and only eating $3 million of dead money. Then you got Julian Love, no question about him. Chenan Rosu, no question about him. Devin Witherspoon, no question. Jaron Reed, no question. Then you got the next one, which is Brian Monet. He's for his position. He's got a huge contract as well. He was, I don't know, did he have an ACL as well? I think so.
Yeah, it was something like he was season, and it's been over a season, hasn't it? It's just been a matter of, I think he was signed to such a big contract. He was seen as that big space eater, nose tackle, and then this has happened, and now he's just earning a lot of money for sitting on a physio bench and rehabbing. I
was going to say he's space eating in the physio room at the moment.
Definitely. With him it's another story, because you can cut him and only eat $500,000 in that money and get $5.4 million in cap savings. And
got to be one of the first.
Sorry,
it's got to be one of the first ones that they go.
Yeah, I think so. Then the other one I just got two more, which is Jason Myers. Cutting would lose you 100,000 K towards the cap and leave you with 5 million of that money. So I would say restructuring. If MacDonald likes him, you can save $1.6 million. The kicker wasn't the problem in 2023, even if he was a bit shaky at times, bit of inconsistency. But that's the one I would do. And the last one is Nick Bellore. He's a good social media host for his show on the YouTube channel of the Seahawks. But
that's
nothing more.
I put him on the graphic.
Sorry? No, I cut him out. Damn it.
The YouTube thumbnail for this episode has got Nick Bellore on it. The YouTube thumbnail for this episode has got Nick Bellore on it, and Mitch messaged me earlier and went, "That's brave." And I was like, "Well, put it in there because I know he's loved, but I read about his cap hit and thought,
okay."
So
it's a lot for to get on Bellore, I think. Yeah.
He Yeah, you can I wrote it down. You can you have to eat 1 million in dead cap, but you save 2.8 million in money for the cap. And doing all these proposed cuts that I'm done talking for a while, pre June 1st, you would right now have the highest dead cap in the NFL with $35.7 million, which is mostly down to Jamal Adams. Like 20 million is just, it sucks, but you have to get through it because, yeah, like I said, he won't give you anything on defense. But you would save going towards the cap. You would have $33.2 million for signing free agents, signing rookies, and yeah, that's the thing you're going to get.
I feel like whenever I'm moving the mouse past all these figures, you know, like on those game shows where you have a woman just doing this next to like, here's what you could have won.
Yeah.
I'm going to have to change my mouse pointer.
So yeah, that's the plan for the cuts, and from my mind, which I made up. If it's gonna come differently, I'm sure of it, but that would be the ideal scenario, even if there's a lot of that money involved.
I like it, dude. I mean, you've been very like thorough and concise, and I can imagine, knowing Mitch as I do, he's like, oh, the man's done his research. I appreciate this, and also the fact this appears in sort of a spreadsheet format. I know Mitch is going to be very happy. So
I'm going to point at DK Metcalf here, and I read a fair bit about DK's potential restructure. Or extension for next year, because I think the way the numbers lie for DK, it's a really good opportunity for us to realize a lot of cap next year. So he's one player I think could be a really good fix this year, but he's an even better fix next year. And if you think that we may have a defense sorted next year and and we'll have 2 new draft classes in there, we could be in a really advantageous cap position next year. So leaving that as it is for now and addressing it next year might just open the door for a few free agents to come in on top of all of that next year. So there could be a sort of cascading effect off this year of rebuild plus restructuring DK going into 2025. So that's one for next year's offseason. But it's just there's a situation there with DK that can be really advantageous to us, and I think that might well happen.
Well, I think, Mitch, it's time to talk about yours.
Yeah, sure. So you'll notice there's a few differences in numbers on mine to the numbers we've seen on Over the Cap. And just to point out, I've used Sport Track and I've used Over the Cap as well. There is some projection there with potential for what year one numbers in a restructured contract could look like. We can chuck my my graphic up if you like.
You ready?
Josh, and I'll quickly. Yeah, so I'm just going to explain a few of these things, and then I'm going to go into the concept. So when you look at situations like J-Love, I've put there as a 2 million cap saving with the restructure. It doesn't line up exactly with Over the Cap, but my suggestion there is with the performance we saw from J-Love last year, we could happily extend, because the age he's at and the versatility he has, he projects as a great fit for Mike Mack. You could sign him to a slightly extended deal, convert some salary, and realize a little bit of cash there to make things a little easier. Same with Diggs. Diggs is a restructure, sorry, not an extension necessarily. Disley, I think I've added a year on and converted some salary to free up 3. Tyler Lockett, this is going to be controversial. With Tyler Lockett, I've suggested a void year to move some bonus. Now, that would free up 12 million. But I think actually when you look at that, it's not necessarily advisable because it kicks the can down the road a little bit, puts some dead cap in 2025 when we could be looking at playoff pushing, being a set roster on the way up. We don't necessarily want a potentially retired wide receiver still eating cap when we're trying to push into the future. So this is a hypothetical situation that you'll see at the top there is called rework, resign, keep key characters on the roster. So it works off the basis that we lose Monet. That should be 5.4 million, but my spreadsheet's rounded it up, so I apologize for the lack of accuracy there. So call it. There are some that are rounded down. It works out about right. Don't worry. So 5.5 for Monet. The Adams 17 million cap saving differs dramatically from Jonas's. However, that is a post-June cut that has some cap moved again into 2025. So it spreads that liability of cutting and dead money from this year over to next year too, and gives Mike Mack a bit more space to start sort of recruiting some free agents and building and keeping these key characters in place. So save a bit with Monet. I think it's an obvious cut. We've touched on that with Jonas. Remove Adams. I think it's an inevitable one in some respects because it's an unfathomable amount of money for a guy that misses half a season on average with us since he's been on our roster.
Do we know if he retires? Just a quick question, because this is where I've not done my research properly.
We lose all liability for any bonuses.
We don't owe him anything if he retires.
I think anything we converted into future bonuses we're liable for, which I think we did last year, because he's already had that money. So I think that would still sit on our, but there would be no salary. Is that how you understand it, Jonas?
Yeah.
Yeah. Cool. Yeah. So we would still be on the hook for a little bit, but it would be nothing like what we're looking at the moment. So, I mean, he could throw us a bone, but I think it would be more about the fact that his body has taken a considerable amount of punishment. The broken fingers, the torn labrum, the completely detached quadriceps muscle. It's honestly, I'm surprised he still walks.
It's a catalogue, isn't it? He's like, if he doesn't get sent to a teaching hospital, then I don't know who's a better example. It should be a matter of, right, this is one of our sort of repeat clients. Everything's gone wrong with him. He's held together by duct tape and staples, but we keep him coming back so you guys can learn. Next step's a cadaver. So it's like, honestly, as an ex-sportsman, honestly, as an ex-sportsman who suffered a pretty serious injury, I knew when my time to stop was. I think it's because he is such a fit and competitive person. He keeps going, but every time he keeps going, it's like he rectifies one thing, and then something else goes wrong.
Yeah. That's the nature of the human body with injuries like that. I think, though, when you're recovering from something and you're still trying to exert the same amount of performance, other things can be thrown out and overcompensate. And it's very common for someone to pull a hamstring and then do a calf straight afterwards because the body is overcompensating. So
just quickly on Jamal Adams from Robert. Correct me if I'm wrong, but Jamal Adams hasn't played a full season since 2018.
No, I think he's absolutely right.
I think you're definitely right there, Robert, because I can't remember a full season from him for a long time. Whether it's with us or the Jets,
reinforces it. It reinforces the point for all of us, really. So I've on the re-signing of those players, I've got Brooks, Parkinson, Williams, and Wagner all coming back. I don't know if Wagner coming back actually really suits a Mike Mack defense because the linebackers are expected to be able to do just about everything depending on how he sees, the play. And I don't know. Wagner still has an awful lot of value as a run-stopping Mike linebacker. In coverage, going to the flats, dropping deep. Nah, not for me. I don't think that works. But for the sake of what I'm trying to achieve here and bringing back key characters for his roster in year one, I've got him there as a 7 million hit, which is similar to last year. It could be slightly less, but I think it'll be about the same. Williams 14 million hit. His average cap for any extension would be a bit higher than 14, but potentially you could work that in so that his year one hit was more favorable for our position we're in. Parkinson's looking at about 6 million a year. Again, a potentially favorable first year down to 4, with a later year in that contract looking more like 8.5, with the middle years hitting that 6 number. I could see that being something that we could work. And Brooks at 8. I think by the end of Brooks's next contract, he'll be earning 14, 15 million potentially. But again, a first year on that contract could look more like 8 with some bonus in there and things. So losing Monet, losing Adams, retaining Brooks, Parkinson, Williams, and Wagner. that would keep the heart of that defense looking strong and keeping a tight end next to Disley that keeps our tight end room looking less battered, potentially a draft candidate in there as well. Back to 3. That would look okay. And then the restructures of Disley being 1 year extended and some salary moved into bonus, relieving 3. Diggs and J-Love I've talked about, and Lockett would be a void year. Potentially Draymond Jones traded. I think he does have trade value. I think his contract's not so terrible that we couldn't, it's a possibility to move him on. He's not a defensive piece in our setup that has become key in terms of being a leader necessarily. If you were looking at someone in there with a large cap hit, you could move for a draft pick. There's some logic there. However, I will say Mike Mack will look at Dre Jones as an ideal 4-down lineman who can be moved from edge, can be put out into coverage in the flats if you're keeping a 3-4. Whatever you do on the D line and need to be flexible, Draymond Jones becomes a key piece. So that might be the last person Mike Mack looks at and wants to move. However, that's a fairly large cap hit and a guy with some trade value. So that's what I think it could look like if Mike Mack really, really wants to keep key characters in that room while he reshapes.
I love it. I mean, we said that Dre Jones, and for people that can't see, because I've managed to put our heads in the way. So Mitch has put the totals at the bottom. So we have got, if we
can you put us on the side? Can we move to the side of the screen?
I'd have to redo everything, and I've not got that much patience.
Don't worry, I don't know.
I'll do it. Next one, I'll do that. Okay. Yeah. As everyone may know, this is going to be a weekly series. We're going to do it as an off season. Mitch has put some fantastic work into this, and every time we have a new guest, we'll be asking them to do the same type of thing. So, Jonas, you can play fantasy with this, and when you send it through to me, I will give you all the credit. I'd love you to do something like this, and then we'll put it up on our socials and let everyone have their say. With that saying, having a say, we are doing a consensus mock draft as well at the moment, and Mitch has been hot on that with it on different Facebook groups and whatnot, and that's been very exciting, getting a lot of input. So we'd love everyone's input on this type of thing as well, because I think Dre Jones, polarizing as he's been for this first season, as Mitch quite rightly put, I think that Mike MacDonald's going to look at him as a fantastic piece in a potential defense. And when you look at that front 3, if we keep it at 3-4 predominantly with Reed, and then we re-sign Williams, and you've got Dre Jones there's some 3 incredible pieces that can be moved across that line.
Sure.
Yeah,
and this is a nice question coming on YouTube about the defensive front. So
here we go. In fact, let's put it back so you can see us.
There we go.
So 009 armor, a hugely positive thing about our defense is it has the flexibility to have a 3-4 or a 4-3 base. So Mike Mack should be able to mold our defense however he feels fit. I couldn't agree more.
No. I agree. I think that's a big part of what Mike Mack does as well, because often he does, though. I mean, I've heard people call them mug looks, where you have the 4, what could be 4 potential linemen, safeties or DBs or linebackers up with the line. So you've really crowded the box. Nobody knows exactly who they're supposed to pick up on the offensive line, and then players drop out and leave certain personnel in. You've no idea whether that's going to be 3 when you leave with a couple of DBs, or whether that's going to be 4 with people shooting B gaps. You have no idea what that's going to be. So being able to shift from a 3 to a 4 with the same personnel on the field, absolutely key. So that question is a great question.
And just to highlight, from our Discord server, it's UK 12 man, who is a regular contributor, and at some point will come on the pod. He has no choice.
Absolutely.
We've also, I'd like to say thank you as well to Rob Smith from Let's Talk Seahawks. He's actually in our comments as well. Fantastically knowledgeable. If you're watching this and you've not checked those guys out, they're brilliant. Mitch and I have been on there, and Mitch, have you got more news?
I was just going to say, before we get off the question, I was just going to give one more shout out to someone who came in with a question. I think we mentioned it either earlier in this pod or the pod that failed just before we went live on this one. We had a question from Joe Mack, who was the first person to join our Discord server, which anyone listening is more than welcome to join and discuss Seahawks with us. Joe Mack had asked, with potential cuts to Jamal Adams, Quandre Diggs, and Bobby Wagner, who was the most likely defensive player on our roster to step up as a leader of the new reformed Mike Mack defense. So, Jonas, who do you think, if we were to lose those three leaders who are obvious leaders in our team, who would be your favorite to step up?
That's a good question. I think it goes coming down to who's going to resign, or who's going to come in as a free agent. I think Spoon's too young for my mind. In my mind,
I think there's potential for the future for him, though. I think you're
definitely, but he's got to have a couple of more years on his belt to just really become a leader. I think I would like to say Leonard Williams, probably, and then having the dudes on the roster right now, it's tough to say. I can't.
It is.
I don't know them too well. I think maybe if Mike Mack values him a lot, like you talked about it, maybe Draymond Jones. I have no idea, if I'm honest.
Well, the one I threw out there's Jay Love. I think Jay Love had a similar role at the Giants and
team captain.
Being in,
he was a defensive captain in New York, wasn't he?
He was, yeah. And he's also right in the center of the field. I always think linebackers or safeties are a great shout if they're vocal and lead by example. And you see him covering other people's mistakes. You see him making key interceptions. He's barking at people, and I love that. I think Jay Love's a good shout. And another guy who has returned to the Seahawks recently, who had a really, really good year, Jarran Reed. I think Jarran Reed would be a really good shout as a defensive leader as well. We've obviously previously had Al Woods in there in the middle of the line, and also having someone behind with the DBs or linebackers leading. I think that's having someone up front and having someone in the back is a good combination. I think Jarran Reed and Jay Love could be those guys for me if I was picking.
I mean, we've had this conversation actually on Let's Talk Seahawks. I'm with the youth movement that's going on. I am all for instilling young captains who are going to drive this team forward. I think Spoon, based on his performance, his attitude, his work ethic, everything should be top of that list at the moment.
Yep.
I think you're completely right, Mitch, in saying that someone in the centre needs to be there. I'm a big fan of having a D lineman. I think Reed's there. I think if Big Cat stays, he is definitely in with a shout as well. Not necessarily young, but a fantastic player. I think they would be my top leaders. I think Love, he's already got experience as a captain with the Giants, and he's shown exactly what he can do. I think we've got some really good options, and we don't have to lean on a veteran per se. Anyone who plays Madden, you get to pick your own, and I will freely admit that Spoon is always one of my defensive captains because I just love the way he plays. And I would just want a hard hitter to be able to really set the tone every single game and have people follow him. I think it's a great shout. To be honest, I think they were both really good shouts. Offensively,
speaking of the youth movement and the D line, have we talked about the news which came in just before we started on the second take about the D coordinator?
We've not.
maybe we can slide it in here and
let's do it. Go on.
I think we should. Yeah. So just before we came live,
go ahead.
Yeah, just before we came live, Aiden Durd was announced as the new DC. And for anyone who's wondering who he is, what he's done, he's a British coach, which we obviously love here on the pod. He previously had coached the London Warriors before moving to the NFL. He's coached at I think I can't remember the other franchise, but he's been in most recently at the Cowboys. I I can't remember if it was the Eagles or it was another franchise in the NFC I think he'd been at previously as well. But it really rounds off, I think, our defensive coaching picture, with Mike Mack specializing with linebackers and DBs. And then we've got Leslie there, who's got previous head coaching experience, linebackers and DBs. Brandon Jackson, our pass rush specialist. And now you've got a D-line orientated DC. And I think that Falcons, thank you. Yes. UK 12th man in with the Falcons. That was the NFC team that he'd coached with as well. So yeah, I think that defensive coaching room now has got specializations spread right across it. I think coming in as DC and not calling defensive plays is possibly a really good way to ease him in from D-line coaching to DC coaching as well.
Mm-hmm.
And once he's in tune with Mike Mack can ease off that a bit as well. So I think it's a really good situation.
Yeah, and for any sort of 12s listening around the world, the London Warriors are one of the premier UK American football teams. They were perennial champions, which isn't what our friend Matty F. Brown will hear as the defensive coach of the London Olympians, but they are there. They seem to attract such good talent from all over the UK, the US, Europe. Fantastic team. If you ever get the chance to watch any of their YouTube plays, I definitely recommend it. They really fly the flag for UK American football as well. I mean, with this, we've touched on our first scenario, Jonas. That was fantastic insight into sort of where the cap lies, what the savings could be. We want to hear from everyone. Like I said, get on our socials. We're on X. I've got to try and remember now. X, Insta. We've got a Facebook group. We've got a Discord as well. The Discord server is constantly shared on our X. Mitch is very active on that. He is our stat man. So anything statistical or informative comes from him. If it's opinionated, it comes from me. So there you go. That's how you know to differentiate. And we tend to put our names at the bottom. And you can find us at 12 Talk Pod. Like, subscribe to the YouTube. It all helps. All of your comments. Thank you to everyone for joining as well. This has been brilliant to have so many comments come in. Jonas, where can people find you? And please talk about the German Seahawkers as well, which reminds me, I need to pay my membership.
Yeah. Thank you so much. Yeah, like we said on the last pod, we're one of the largest Seahawks fan clubs, official fan clubs outside of the US, with about 1,800 members right now, active members. And where can you find us? You can find us at pretty easily at GermanSeahawkers.com, which is our website. We have it's in German, obviously. We have recaps and previews for games, and yet coming up on the draft, our guys are really going into it, like looking at prospects and going through the pre-draft and post-draft process and stuff like that. It's all on there. It's also on our socials, on Instagram, German Seahawkers, at German Seahawkers, and on X/Twitter, it's Seahawkers GER. You can find us there and interact with us, and yeah, we'd love to see you, have you there.
I'd like to say as well, for anyone who's a bit put off by it being in German, Google Translate's fantastic. And when you do actually join, the emails you receive, you will get them in German, but there's always an English translate. Well, there is for mine anyway, which is very, very helpful, because my German is very rusty now. I've not lived there for 17 years. I'd just like to say, Jonas, thank you so much for being the first 12 to appear on the 12 Talk podcast. As you can see on the banner below, if you'd like to appear as a guest, message us on any of our socials. You can get in our Discord, which is getting more and more lively as we speak. And Mitch is our Discord master. He's the king of Discord, in my opinion, because I just go on there and chime in every now and again. But the opinions flying around are fantastic. Some of the memes and everything that goes into it, it's just brilliant. Follow the German Seahawkers. Jonas, you'll see he likes to like and sort of interacts with our tweets as well. Jonas, thank you so much for coming on with us. It's been brilliant. And also, I want to say a big shout out to you as well for when you went to Seattle, finding me the hat that I could not find anywhere. Pride
Awesome.
of place. Pride of place.
No worries, no problem. My pleasure.
There you go. 12's making friends around the world. That's what we want. With that, we are under an hour, like we promised we would be. If you guys want to appear, hit us up. We've been more than happy to speak to you. We've got some fantastic guests lined up already. We are going to be talking cap for the next few episodes. Mitch has got some fantastic scenarios. I may try and get one in there as well if I can work out spreadsheet and do math. But apart from that, I just want to finish on a very, very thankful Go Hawks.
Go Hawks.
Go Hawks.